Am I audible? So let me just check once. Here it is not showing. Okay, so before I start, let me, just show you this mind map. So this is the mind map, overall mind map of the chapters. That is how exactly sexual reproduction occurs in flowering plant. So that is mainly the pollination and fertilizations. Okay, so angiosperms. So in today's session, so we'll be mainly highlighting on concept of pollination and fertilization. Okay, and before I continue with the mind map, so let me introduce myself. I am Vani Kari, biology educator at Unacademy. I'm an engineer with bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology and a B.Ed degree. Also a founder of a startup where I grow microgreens by vertical farming technology. So join with us in Telegram for homework and class notes. You can join the channel Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10 biology and the Telegram channel of Unacademy ICSE and ISE both. So this link you will find in the description box. So go to the description box, click on this link and join the channel there for updates regarding the classes. Okay, so also we'll be conducting a special classes on Unacademy platform. Learn from your favorite educators for free. Engage with educators via poll, and also you can clear your doubts in the live special class. So basically, the special classes are free classes which are conducted on Unacademy platform. All you need to do is download the Unacademy Learners app and start taking up the sessions. Yep. So start taking up the sessions. Yeah. So basically, we'll be conducting a quizzes. All right, and we'll be sharing the leaderboard so that you can know your rank and compete with your friends. Also, we have a question tab where you have an option to attach an image and send it to the educator during a live session. So any doubt you have, any specific question like where you can't draw and explain and all, so you can attach an image and send it. So that option is there. So that is during a live session, so you can clear your doubts during the live session. So as the educator will be getting a notification, so they'll be clearing your doubt. So now for the top special classes, you can visit the link in the description. This is about the Unacademy subscription feature. You can learn live from the comfort of your home. Unlimited access to all the courses will be there. Okay, so then top educators of India are going to be in one platform. So that is basically an academy platform where you will have access to all the educators courses once you start taking the, once you take the subscription. Okay. Then there is regular doubt clearing session done. So after about every 3 sessions, so there is a fourth session. So fourth session will be a doubt clearing session. So whatever doubts you have related to the topics that are previously covered, so you can clear your doubt in a doubt clearing session. Then complete syllabus will be covered. Exhaustive coverage of a syllabus is 100% syllabus coverage will be done. Mentorship and guidance will be given. Study material is given. Okay, and with that there is a practice test, live test series also you have an option of. Then we have a batch courses. Okay, so now depending on your preference, you can either go with the English batch or you can either go with the English batch. So this is completely your choice. So you will have access to all the batches once you take the subscription. Okay, and with that there is daily practice section, weekly mock test series are there, live quizzes, daily MCQ and subjective test series. Like on a regular basis the poll will be conducted. So weekly mock test series is basically scholar test series is going on right now. So DPP, that is daily practice section, is also there. There is a daily practice paper we can call it. So that is also there. So you will have access to all of this once you take the subscription. So now here the Unacademy Plus subscription pricing. So since this is the very beginning of your month, so you can try with 12 months of subscription. Okay, so very beginning of your academic year, actually not the month, so academic year where it starts from June itself. So those who are planning to take the subscription, so this is the best time that you can go ahead with 12 months of subscription, where you will have access to class. So if you are subscribing for class 9, so you will be getting class 10, class 11 and class 12 subscription absolutely free along with this. So if you are planning for the subscription, so you can go ahead, as this is the best time. So there is some network error or what? Okay, so then now this is the amount for 12 months, so that is 17,250, but with the referral code, that is Vani YT, which you need to apply here at the gift box. Okay, so just apply the code Vani YT to get 10% discount on your subscriptions. Okay, so you just now I told you about 12 months. So if you are going for 12 months, so let's say class 9 you are taking for 12 months subscription, so you are getting class 10, 11 and 12. So only with 12 months or more, so you will have this option where you are getting a subscription free for 10, 11 and 12 as well. So if you are subscribing, like just if you want to try like how exactly this works, you can even try with 6 months or maybe 3 months or 9 months. Okay, so this is completely depending on your convenience. So in that case, again the same code can be applied to get 10% discount on the subscription. So let's get started with the mind map. So this one today what I'm going to discuss is the mind map on. Okay, so this is basically mind map of pollination and fertilization it is. Okay, so that is your chapter where you will be discussing about the types of pollinations that are there, and also the fertilization concept which is there, so which I have already taken on YouTube, so you can watch the recordings of those sessions. And along with that, so basically mind map will give you a gist of like what exactly is there, and for last minute revision, this particular mind map is going to help you a lot in preparation in your finals. Okay, so you can just refer these mind maps. So I'll just show you a part of it. So where we are mainly going to discuss, so this is here you can see the pollination part. Okay, so this is the pollination part where you will come across the outbreeding devices also. So we'll discuss this part first. So that is with respect to pollination. So under pollination, what else is there? So basically there is self pollination and cross pollination, right? Yeah, so basically you can find, so there is a self pollination process and there is a cross pollination. So these are the two processes that you will come across. So these are the methods, and now again we'll have a discussion about the types, like where exactly this occurs. So let's have a look at the pollination types here. So this will give you in just like what exactly is the types of pollination and what exactly is outbreeding devices. So you have studied this one. Okay, so maybe you don't know this name, but you this particular thing is there in your textbook, which is written as the nature favor cross pollination, and there are many more adaptations in your basically the plant, we can say. Okay, so there are many more adaptations, so those adaptation in plant to favor cross pollination. So this is basically to favor cross pollination. Outbreeding devices are the ones which are going to help in the favoration of basically with respect to cross pollination. So we'll discuss about this also. So if you remember the term, so there is a heterostele, protandry, protogyny, okay, self incompatibility. So all that comes here under this outbreeding devices. So what exactly is outbreeding devices? Am I audible clearly? Is there a network issue from my side? Am I audible clearly? I think this is buffering. Alright, anyway, so let's see this. Okay, so here in this case, devices for promoting cross pollination. So those we call as the outbreeding devices. So what exactly is outbreeding devices? So now when you, as the name itself suggests, um, outside breeding, not the same plant but the other plant. Okay, so breeding is what, when the two plants come together, so that is with respect to the breeding, so that is fusion of gametes will occur. Okay, so it is not the same plant but the outbreeding. So outbreeding because not the same plant but the different plant belonging to the same species is favored, which is actually a cross pollination. So outbreeding devices, so there are a lot of adjustments done here in the plant body for the outbreeding to occur. Okay, so before I continue with this, let me just explain about the pollination, and then we'll start with the other topic, so that is the outbreeding devices. All right. So is there any network issue? All right, then. So gatianogamy is between the flowers. So let me just write it here. So this one, gatianogamy, is basically, you can see, gamy is again a marriage. Okay, so gamy will just take this as a marriage, and gatiano meaning is, so this word meaning is neighbor. Okay, so neighbor marriage is occurring. So what is the meaning of that? So meaning is that in the same plant, so this was only the same flower, but here what is happening, so this is the same plant but different flowers. Okay, so this is same plant but a different flower, the pollination is occurring, so that is a gatianogamy. Now when we mention about the xenogamy, so xeno is what, again gamy is a marriage itself. Okay, so gamy means it is a marriage. So what exactly is xeno then, or a allo? So xeno is also given as a allo in your book. So allogamy is nothing but a stranger. Okay, so this one is a stranger marriage, where us belonging to the same species itself but completely a different plant. So in that case, let's say here is one plant. Okay, so this is one plant. Now, one second. So here is one plant. All right. So there is, there are changes that are occurring. So genetic makeup of this plant, genes in this plant, or the genetic makeup in this plant are different as compared to the other one. Okay, really sorry. So there is another plant. So genetic makeup of this plant is different. Okay, so this is different from the other plant which is there, but they are anyway belonging to the same species, where you can see this plant is having a different genetic makeup. So now when the transfer occurs here, so okay, so that is from this flower to this flower. All right, So in this case, what would be the condition? So let's say here is the male flower and here is this female flower. So what will happen? The anther which releases the pollen grain. So pollen grains released from here. So can fly to this. So it can be through the wind or it can be through the insect, and it is received by the stigma. So this one is actually a pollination process where the transfer is occurring. But what exactly is happening here? The genetic makeup of this plant is different. Genetic makeup, so that is genes in this plant is different and genes in these plants are different. So let's say this plant is a better plant, okay, so compared to the other one, and the other plant, so let's say this plant is a weak plant, okay. So in that case, depending on as the pollination is occurring, so there is a combination of genetic makeup because these genes are there which might be expressing on a weaker side, so this plant might not be that stronger. But here the genes which are there, so they are expressing in a well way, so that they are getting a adaptability to adjust in this environment. So this can be a better plan because this is able to survive well in this environment. So when the transfer of the pollen grain occurs here, so in that case, so mixing up of the genetic makeup is produced. So whatever progeny is produced, so that progeny can also be a better, so there is a chance, okay, or better than the weak plant, so better than a weak plant we can say, so that can also be the possibility. So any combination can occur, so whenever genetic combination occurs, so there is a chance of the improvement. So xenogamy or allogamy is one such thing. So that is xeno or allo, when we mention it is a stranger, Gami is a marriage. So with respect to that, there are a lot of changes that are gonna occur. Alright. So now agencies when we mention, so there is a abiotic agency and a biotic agency. So under animals it can be anything. So it can be insects, alright. So it can even be humans. So some of the examples which are mentioned in your book, so that it can be a elephant. So this can even be a bird. So any of these in general, okay, so can be the ones which can transfer the genetic, I mean pollen grain basically, okay. So they can transfer the pollen grain from anther to the stigma here. So this is a biotic one. And now when we mention about abiotic, so it is wind and then there is water, okay. So wind and water, which is a abiotic one, because they are non-living things. So water, through the water the transportation of pollen gamete can be done, I mean that is the pollen grain. So through the wind the transportation can be done, but anyway, so these are just the media which are not a living ones, but they are transferring the pollen grains, and that we call as the pollinating agent. So what is a pollinating agent then? Now when we mention about a pollinating agent, so pollinating agent can be specifically, we can say these are just a second, yeah. So these are the ones which transfer the pollen grain. So in that case it is wind, and then there is water, and it can be a insect. So depending on that the names are given. So this is a hydrophily, so this is a anemophily, this one is a entomophily, okay. So now wind pollinated, so this is basically a wind pollinated, okay, not winter. So this is wind pollinated. uh, Examples we can say grasses. So why? Because the flowers are actually smaller then, okay. So flowers are smaller, so they are not even brightly colored because they need not attract the insect, okay. So with respect to that, hi rocking, good evening. Okay, so here in this case, wind pollinated can be the grasses, Because whenever wind pollinated flowers are there, so you can see, inflorescence will be there, so that is a common floral axis is present, and you can see many of the flowers that are arranged here onto this inflorescence. Okay, so that is a bundle of flowers, a group of flowers you can find. So this can be the inflorescence there, where you can see multiple flowers which are arranged on a common axis, and these flowers are actually smaller. Okay, so these are smaller and they need not even be brightly colored. So they'll just receive the pollen grain, so that is coming through the air. So the pollen grain comes here, and the germination, I mean not germination, the pollination can be done. So once the fertilization, everything is done, so basically seed production, the fruit production, depending on a type of a grass, so this is gonna vary. Okay, so now wind pollination, when we mention the grasses, so what are those grasses? It can be wheat, it can be maize, all right, then it can even be a java, a millet, or a rice. Okay, so this can even be a millet. So all these are transfer of a pollen grain, you can see only with the wind. So these are the grasses, all right. So grasses, wheat, maize, java, millet, rice can also be, because that is also, if you have seen a rice plant, so that also grows as a grass itself. So all the grasses are considered under the wind pollinated, or I mean agencies. So they are going to use a pollinating agent as a wind. Now in case of a water pollinated one, so there is a Vallisneria, Hydrilla. Okay, so there are different examples that can be taken. So that can be with respect to aquatic plant. So aquatic plants can transfer their pollen grain. Entomophily, you are asking. Elephophily, so this is elephant, you are asking about the elephant or entomo. So if you are asking about the entomo, so it is the insects one. So elepho, if you are asking, so this can be basically the elephants. Okay, so when they keep their leg on the largest flower that is there, that is the rafflesia, so on to their food, so basically the transfer, like let's say the food will have the pollen grains attached to the elephant foot. Okay, so now when it walks, so basically again it is keeping a foot on a rafflesia, which is the largest one, so it can transfer the pollen grain from one flower to the other one. Okay, so that is with respect to the elephant. So if you are asking about the entomophily, so entomo is with respect to insects, where they'll come to collect the nectar. So they'll get attracted to a brightly colored petals of a flower. Then there is a scent production, that is because of the scent, because of the colorful flower, and also because of the nectar. So they come there for food, that is to collect the nectar. But in the meanwhile, as their body is having so many of the pollen grains trapped, so this can also transfer the pollen grain. Yes, so Rafflesia is one such flower which is actually, not destroyed as such. So, basically, let's say it is keeping food on the flower petal itself, that is the largest one. But in case of this Rafflesia flower, or any larger flower also, if we are considering, not just this one, okay. So in that case, you can see mainly sideways there is a growth of the stamen, that is anther and a filament. So same way the carpel or pistil, what we say gynoecium, so that is also sideways. Okay, so there can be a destruction with respect to the petal, but whole of a thing is gonna remain the same. Okay, so in that way we can say that so certain, not like these flowers where the elephant is the one which is acting as a pollinating agent, so they are much more stronger as such. So elephant is the only one thing that can transfer these pollen grains, so that is possible. Or it can be through the wind, but wind anyway is not so efficient in carrying this, because for wind pollination to occur, so large number of pollen grain requirement is there, so which is not produced in those elephophili type of flowers. So it is the elephant only that has to produce, and there is no destruction, because the designing of that flower is done in such a way that it is able to survive those conditions. Okay. So this one, insect pollinated. So insect pollinated, here only one example is given, but you can just check what is mentioned in the Selena. So you can go ahead with those examples, or in general examples also you can write. Okay. So like there are many of the colorful flowers when we mention. So they are all insect pollinated, where they'll come there to collect the nectar, and in the meanwhile they'll transfer the pollens as well. Okay. Now here outbreeding devices when we mention, so devices for promoting cross pollination. So how exactly cross pollination is promoted? So why not self pollination? Because self pollination is not going to give us any genetic diversity, or there is no variation. So but for the better adaptation in this particular environment, always a variation, changes have to happen. So with the better genes, the better adaptability will be there for a plant. So with respect to that, the always the plant naturally they they favor the cross pollination to occur. So in that, one of them is self incompatibility. So what is the meaning of that? So if the self pollen is coming, that is coming from the same plant, germination of that pollen grain is not accepted. So this is not allowed to grow inside. The pollen grain is not allowed to grow in the style there. So that we call as a self incompatibility. So self incompatibility is basically, you can see that the plant, the pollen grain belonging to the same species, yes, so that it has to be same species but the same plant. Okay. So pollen grain belonging to the same plant is not allowed to germinate. So that we call as a incompatibility. So if compatibility is there, so then it is easily going to germinate. So since it is belonging to the same one, so that is same plant, so this is not allowed to germinate, because there is a chemical dialogue that is occurring between the two of the varieties. Then other than that, you can also see that the arrangement of anther and stigma at the different position also does affect. Okay, 1 second. Yeah. So here, arrangement of anther and stigma at different positions. So that is heterostele. Okay. So in that case, what will happen? Let's say this is the anther nerve and the stigma is over here. Okay. So this could be the one case. Or let's say stigma is over here and anther is somewhere below. So now different lens style, different arrangement of the anther and then the stigma at the different position. So it might not be possible for a self-pollination, because they, even if they are coming together, so they are not coming in contact with each other because they are of different height. So in that case, there is a chance it can prevent a cross-pollination. But certain cases, if an insect comes, anyway, self-pollination is also possible. So now if that occurs, if the self-pollen is coming, so basically the stigma is going to reject that and accept the other one, so that is belonging again to the same species. Now production of yeah, So production of unisexual flower, so that is dicliny. So that is dioecious plant. Okay, dichogamy we can mention. So it is a dioecious plant. So that means there is a plant which is producing a male flower, it is producing a female flower. Okay, so production of a male flower and a female flower is seen, so that we call as a dicliny. Okay, so that is on a different a plant itself. Okay, so that can be a dioecious plant, or on the same plant also, it is not a bisexual one but a unisexual flower production can also avoid the self pollination, and in turn it is favoring the cross pollination. Then pollen release and stigma receptivity are not synchronized, so that means the anther matures first. Okay, so anther and the stigma maturation, so this is gonna vary. So because of the maturation in their timing, so you can see there is basically the changes that will be there. Okay, so moving on to the next one. So this is with respect to what exactly, so we have seen this. Okay, so like what exactly is double fertilization in my session itself, so I'll just explain that. Just a second. Okay, so now you can see that as the fertilization occurs, so this is pollen pistil interaction. So now as soon as the pollen reaches there, so there is a pollen pistil interaction that we can see. So what exactly happens in pollen pistil interaction? So pollen is there, so these two will interact, so there is an exchange of chemical dialogue that is gonna occur. Now this pollen is gonna germinate inside this style. Then here you can find this particular structure, so that is a ovary. Okay, so this is stigma. All right, so there is stigma, then there is style. So stigma, style, and ovary is there. Okay, so this is stigma, style, and ovary, so inside which you can find the arrangement of this ovule. So there is a ovule arrangement that can be seen. So this ovule is now what I have drawn is with a covering. Okay, so now with that, so there are two coverings that we need to show as such. Okay, so just a second. So now this pollen tube which is here, so this will start to grow and it will reach this site, so that is the micropylar end. So here is where you can see a fertilization that is gonna start. So now with respect to that, you can see that the stigma has received many of the pollen grains, and all have started to germinate, but you can see only few of them will be able to fertilize that. Okay, so that is only one pollen tube is gonna successively grow, and that will continue the growth inside the style and into the ovary and then towards the micropylar end. So not all of them are growing, but one is gonna complete this fertilization process. So in that case, you have already seen that inside this ovule, basically you can find a embryo sac which will be there. So this embryo sac is having an antipodal cell. So this side it is having this is a chalazal end, this one is a micropylar end. So here is the egg and synergid and two of the polar nuclei you can find. So this is the apparatus that you can find, so which is actually a embryo sac. So this is what this one is, embryo sac. Okay, so now with respect to that, after the fertilization is done, so that is one of the male gamete, so that is gonna fuse. So let's see this one. So this is with respect to double fertilization. Okay, so in that case there is a syngamy that is occurring, so that is fusion of male and the female gamete. So that is the egg nucleus and the male nucleus are gonna fuse, so that we call as a syngamy. And there is a triple fusion. So what exactly is triple fusion? So it is basically one of the male gamete, so that is fusing with the two polar nuclei. Okay, so polar nuclei that are there. So since it is 2 plus 1 3 it is, so it is a triple fusion. Okay, so two polar nuclei already there and there is one more male gamete, so three of them are getting fused, so it is a triple fusion. So both of them together we call this as a double fertilization. Okay, so once the double fertilization is done, so there are a lot of changes that are going to occur. So you can see that there is a zygote formation after the syngamy. Okay, so as the egg and the one second. So as you can see what exactly happens, there is a degenerating synergid. Okay, so zygote is there, so which is actually diploid. So then there is a primary endosperm nucleus. So that triple fusion product is basically when three of the nuclei fuse. So that we call as a primary endosperm nucleus, which you can see in a primary endosperm cell. Later on, this is going to form a endosperm itself. So degenerating antipodal cells. So antipodal cells are going to degenerate and synergids are also going to degenerate. Only the egg will be there. So that is mainly the zygote and along with that primary endosperm cell with the primary endosperm nucleus is present here. Okay, so this is the arrangement that you can see in these plants. So that is specifically the angiosperms where you can see a double fertilization occurring. Alright, so with respect to that you can see now if we have to see this process, so I'll just show it here. So this one is the stigma. Okay, so then there is a style here, so this one is a style. All right, this did not come well. So this is style. Then there is ovary here. Okay, so inside the ovary you can find a ovule. So let's make the ovary a little larger. Okay, just a second. Little bigger will make up so that we can draw rest of the things. So there are many more things that we need to show here, so we'll make it a little larger. So this one is what, this is a ovary now. Okay, so ovary is placed onto what, ovary is placed onto the thalamus. So now there is a connection, so that is a placenta. So attached to the placenta, so you can find there is a structure. So that structure is basically a ovule, so attached by a stalk. So now here inside this you can find a ovule, and this ovule is basically a inverted ovule. Okay, so why do we say it is inverted? Like you can just see this. So now this is just bent like this. So this is an inverted ovule that I am showing here. So then there are coverings as such. So these are called as integuments. Okay, so now this integument is actually covering the whole part. So there is a outer integument as such. So we can just show one more division here itself. Alright, so I'll just continue. So there are two of the outer integument and inner integument will be there. So we can just show it up like this. So there is one more covering which is gonna occur between these two. So thin line is coming this way. Okay, so these are basically two of the coverings. So this one is ovary. Let me just label each one of them now. Okay, so this is what, this is stigma. Okay, and here is the style. So this one is style, and this one is ovary. Okay, then this one is ovule. All right, so now this one is actually a funicle. Then this one, this point junction, what is there? So this is actually the hilum part. Okay, then this opening, what you see here, so this opening is a micropyle. Okay, and the opposite end is basically a chalaza end. So this one is chalaza end there. So now this one is the placenta. Okay, so this one is placenta. So these are all the different parts that you can find. Now with respect to that, so inside will draw a specific structure, so that is the embryo sac, which is actually a female gametophyte. So here you can find at the chalaza end. So here, towards the micropylar end, you can find a synergid cells, and this is a synergid cell. Now two of the polar nuclei are present, and here you can find the antipodal cells. So this one is a antipodal cell. So let me just label this. So now okay, so now towards the chalaza, the cells that are present, so these are called as a antipodal cell. Hi Kamlesh, good evening. So this one is a antipodal cell. Okay, so this one is antipodal, and now these two nuclei can be called as the secondary nuclei, or this can even be called as a polar nuclei. So polar or a secondary nuclei can be mentioned for this. All right. So now other than that, repeat please. Which part you want me to repeat, Kamalesh? This structure explanation you are asking? So if that is the one, I'll just repeat it. So are you asking for this whole structural arrangement? Okay, so now now this is the structure where you can see a stigma, style, and a ovary. Okay, ovary is placed onto what? Ovary is placed onto the thalamus. All right, then inside the ovary you can find a ovule. So ovule is with the integument. So let me just label the integument as well. So ovule is with the integuments there. Okay, then inside the ovule you can find this red structures, which is basically a embryo sac. All right, so that embryo sac you can find. Now this opposite to micropylar end you can find a chalazal end. So at the chalaza you can find the antipodal cell. Funicle is just a stalk where you can see attachment of the ovule inside the ovary, that is across the placenta. So this is a funicle, and a hilum is present. Okay, so now this is the whole structure. So now as the pollen grain germinates, so let's germinate a pollen grain here. So now this is the pollen grain which will reach this site, and this is gonna germinate. So okay, so now as this starts to germinate, so it is going to carry the tube nuclei. So it will be carrying the male gamete as well. Okay, so this will be carrying the male gamete. So let me just complete this one. Okay, so now what we can see is two of the male gametes we will just show. Okay, so tube nuclei will be there. So this is gonna degenerate. There are two of the male gamete. Okay, so now this tube nuclei which is there, so this will degenerate. So we can just show it like this. So as this is getting degenerated, not that. All right, anyway, so I'll just have to draw it again now. Alright, so with respect to that, you can see there two of the male gametes are actually there. Okay, so now one of the male gamete is gonna fuse with the egg nucleus. So let's change the color of the egg nucleus. So this is the egg nucleus, and these two are polar nuclei that you can see. Okay, so these are the two polar nuclei. So now in this case, what will happen? One of the male nuclei, okay, so this one of the male nuclei will fuse with this, and the other male nuclei will fuse with this. Okay, so when that fusion occurs after the pollination and the fertilization, so let me just take this part. So this pollen tube is also going to degenerate once the once the pollination is done. Okay, so once the fertilization is done, so this is also going to degenerate. So with respect to that, we can say, so this will degenerate and this function is also done. So now we have seen a pollination, so I mean fertilization. So let me just highlight that part. So now you see this part. Okay, one second. All right, so now this is going to degenerate. Okay, so this part is going to degenerate and this part is going to degenerate. All right, so the ones which I have highlighted with the yellow color, so these are going to degenerate. And now you see three of the fusion of the nuclei, right? So this one is there, so this is gonna give us, so let me just take a color. So now the product here is a triple fusion. So this is a triple fusion. Okay, so that is because three of the nuclei have fused, so the process is triple fusion. So in triple fusion, what will happen? So basically you can see that the polar nuclei is fusing with one of the male gamete, and the product is primary endosperm nucleus in a primary endosperm cell. Okay, now with this product, what you see, so this is actually a zygote, so which is actually diploid. So this is 2n, this one is 3n, and here the product is gonna be a embryo. So this is gonna develop into a embryo later on. So this is the whole structural arrangement that you can see. So we can just show this degeneration process here. So that means maybe I can just show you like this. So this is going to degenerate. All right, so this part, what is there, so this will also degenerate. So that is the nuclei. So now what is remaining? Only the triple fusion product, that is primary endosperm nucleus in a primary endosperm cell, and the embryo, so that is basically zygote. So first the development of the endosperm is seen. Okay, so development of the endosperm occurs first. Okay, so I'll just write it here. So development of endosperm is first. All right, so this is first. Next there is the embryo development next. Okay, so this is embryo development, you can see next there. So that is only after the endosperm is ready. So what is the reason for this? Because this has to provide a nourishment. So nourishment to whom? So nourishment to the development, for the development of the embryo, and that's the reason you can see basically a lot of changes that are occurring. Okay, so here the pollination and fertilization, what you studied, so this was the embryo sac. So what exactly is a female gametophyte? So female gametophyte and male gametophyte, I'll just explain it in short. So the male gametophyte is pollen grain, where you can see there is a tube cell. Okay, so this one is called as a tube or vegetative cell. Okay, so this is what a tube or vegetative cell, and here you can find inside this two of the nuclei. Okay, so this is two of them. So this is their own nuclei and this is having their own nuclei. So this one is actually a tube nucleus. Okay, and this is a generative nuclei or two male gametes we can mention. Okay, so these are two male gametes with their nuclei specifically. So this is a generative cell. So generative cell we can just label these. So two male gametes are mainly the nucleus. All right. So now you know these are basically a generative cell. So why do we say it is not a male? It is basically a male gametophyte we say. So this one is generative cell. Okay. So that means what does a male gametophyte contain? The male gametophyte is actually we can say it is multicellular, basically not unicellular. Okay, so two or three cells if they are there, so you know a few celled structure we can say, and other than that contains gamete. Okay, so this contains what? So this gametophyte contains the gamete. So male gametophyte is pollen grain, and that pollen grain contains the gamete, so that is male gametes, and hence pollen grain is important. So now you know the female gametophyte. If we have to see, I'll just erase this part. So here the female gametophyte, when we mention, so it is the embryo sac. So inside this again you can find a gamete. So always a gametophyte will have a gamete. So in that case we have the embryo sac as the female gametophyte. So what does it contain then? So it is basically having a structure as such, where you can see, so let's say this is a embryo sac. So this one is the antipodal cell. Okay, so antipodal cell having their own nuclei. So two of the polar nuclei, egg apparatus and a synergid cells are present. So these are there. So this is actually a female gametophyte, which is a embryo sac. Okay, so these three cells are now antipodal cells. Okay, so I'll just label this. So this one is the antipodal cell. So female gametophyte embryo sac will have a female gamete. So what is that female gamete? So female gamete is basically a egg is present in this embryo sac. So these three are antipodal cell. So now these two are actually two of the polar nuclei that you can see, and on the other side, so this whole thing is actually a egg apparatus. Okay, so this one is egg apparatus we call. So basically that consists of egg. Okay, so this consists of egg, and these two are mainly the synergid. Okay, so these two are synergid, and hence on the whole we call this as a egg apparatus. All right, so this is the structure of the female gametophyte that you can see. Alright, so we are done with today's session. So artificial hybridization is also done. So that is whenever a desired things are required. So before I end this session, so let me just say about the batch that we have. So there is a guardians batch, which is actually a all subject batch for class 9, and the start date is 1st of June 2022. So this is, you know, the mode of delivery here is English, and mainly maths, physics, chemistry and biology are covered in this batch. Okay, So if you are subscribing for class 9, so you will be getting class 10, class 11 and class 12 subscription absolutely free. Okay, so that is along with this one. So basically you can use the code VANIYT. So this is my code. So with this code you will be getting a 10% discount on the subscription. So this is 10% off you are getting on the subscription. All right, so introducing community, so never miss on any update from your favorite educator. So get session note and practice material, share your feedback directly with the educators via poll. So we'll be conducting a poll, so you can yeah, so we'll be conducting a poll, and so you can take a part in those as well. So check out the link to the educator community below, so that is in the description again. So this is Bucks Bounty, opportunity for all learners to report any inappropriate content in the video. So be the first one to report a particular issue to claim your prize. Report any inappropriate content using the form in the description. All right, so any of you any doubt? So this was the mind map is basically going to help you with respect to just have a quick look at certain things. So basically, let's say you're preparing for your finals and at the last moment you just want to analyze what all are there. So it is just like in one picture everything, it is a summary. Okay, so in one picture you can see all the details of that particular chapter. So that is a mind map. Okay, so here I hope it is clear. So any doubt that you have, you can get it clarified. So before I end this session, so basically you can subscribe to our channel, that is Unacademy, ICSE and ISC boards. Click on bell icon to get notified about the sessions. Like and share the video and download the Unacademy Learners app. And if you need this PDF, so just join my Telegram channel. So there I can send the PDF, and also on the community. All right, so you can join in the community. So community link you can find in the description there. All right, so I hope there are no doubts. If any, please do let me know. All right then, so thank you all. So see you all in the next session. So next session is on today is what day actually, let me just check. Yeah, so today is Wednesday, no? So Thursday, tomorrow I have not assigned any session, but Friday I'll conduct a session. Okay, so Friday you can mainly I think I'll conduct a session maybe on tissues. If not, yeah, so germination I'll conduct a session on. Okay, so seed germination on Friday. Okay, so that is 8th, 9th is tomorrow, 10th, right? Yeah, so 10th. On 10th, I'll conduct a germination session. All right. Okay, fine. So see you all in the next session. Bye bye, everyone.